Omega Katana.
Yo, this is your boy, the Omega Katana here. I'm back with another Rambles, and this time's on an anime series. And before we get started, let's just say that I don't like editing long videos, so I'm just keeping at that. And also, let's get started, shall we? So, you know the whole IP trolls, or whenever a company blocks an IP or not use an IP for like years, even though they still have the copyrights for it, and they keep renewing the copyrights over and over again, so no one cannot use the copyrights. And let me just give you a starter. For years, a Thai company took like basically IP trolled, or for the longest time had the international rights for the Ultraman series. And as a result, many Ultraman productions cannot be released outside of Japan because of this. Till recently, Suibara filed a lawsuit against that company, and to find out the whole like contracts the Thai company had were a bunch of fakes. And I'm just going to end that story here. You can just look that up on the internet. And what I'm talking about today is the whole Harmony Gold and Macross copyrights fiasco situation, and what they handled, how they handled the franchise as of late. Let's just say it's despicable that a company was able to like IP ban Macross products to the point of it's like absurd. Like seriously, I had to like import Macross Ace Frontier or emulate Macross PS1 games or SNES games, or just watch like download torrents of Macross Frontier or Delta or some stuff like that because of the whole copyright fiasco situation. And when's the last time Harmony Gold made a Macross cartoon or an animated production? I don't know. Back at 2006 or 7 or 4 or whatever, like mid 2000s with Shadow Chronicles. And that's kind of ridiculous if you haven't had an animated production since the mid 2000s. And speaking of which, you know Voltron, the famous Gold Line or Voltron, it recently had like an okay, decently popular revival of the Voltron brand because of it. Its fan base and plot at the end sucked, but at least New Line Production, its producers are actually using the brand, unlike Harmony Gold, which are struggling to make Robotech material to this day besides comic books and whatnot, and the comics don't sell well. Yes, there's some good comic books of Robotech here and there, but let's just get straight here. Till recently, they released a HD port of a GBA game, which is decent, but let me just tell you something here. Between you and me, let's just say this. It's kind of stupid that you're barely doing anything with your IP that's worth it besides a comic book here and there, a figurine or two, and that's it. No major video games, no major animated projects, a comic book here and there. It's like niche at best. And how Harmony Gold is using the franchise is despicable, because Robotech would have been on top with Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Naruto, along the great Japanese imports of Japan. Put Power Rangers on the list too. You get what I mean. But due to Harmony Gold's treatment of the property, it's like they're limiting its potential. And I'm not lying here. I know there's some diehard Robotech fans that think the same way, that they're limiting the IP as of late. I know but many Robotech supporters some became Macross fans because of this, like I did. Like, they're just like ruining the IP at this point. They don't know how to like use the IP anymore and how to like bring new fans in. Dude, it's like, first of all, I'm sorry to say this, if they want to like a revival or reboot of Robotech, just change the Valkyries and change the Valkyries and Macross elements due to like not bring a lawsuit to the whole Studio Nue and Tatsunoko or what. Yeah, that fiasco. Just take away the whole Macross elements. I know people are brought into Robotech due to the Macross elements, but we don't want but if you want more money, you should take out those elements, because basically they still having this whole Macross thing. Like, it's even affecting the Japanese side that they cannot do any reprints or like reboots, or yes, they got their sequels and spin-offs, but they cannot use the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross original series that much because of the whole situation. For example, with Super Robot Wars, the only time the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross series appeared in the series was the Alpha games, because basically the whole Robotech lawsuit and everything, they can't use it. No one can freaking freely use Robotech unless it's like on small scale projects, because it's super ridiculous. Like this whole thing is so dumb and retarded that even Soji Katamori thinks it's retarded. Like, basically, it's like, it's a head scratcher. We want Macross here. It's like one of my favorite anime IPs with Macross Plus. I love Macross Plus. I love Macross Ace Frontier. I love the Vertex or Valkyries, you might call them, because basically it's like one of the best robots I ever seen, next to like mobile suits and whatnot. But with this whole Harmony Gold, they're like limiting its IP potential. I'm not lying here, because basically, I already said this like many times, but I'll say it again, that it's like limiting their potential of greatness. Now it's like super duper niche. There's barely any new fans of Robotech, let alone Macross, because of this. Because mostly if people hear Robotech, they think it's like this super old school, old timer, 40, 50-year-olds in the fandom, like, wish the things were back in the 80s and yada yada, so on and so forth. But it's like, bruh, it's like stupid. I'm not just going rambling on and on, but I'm doing this without a script, okay? I'm doing this out of my head, fresh out of the mind, and all you can say, I know many Robotech fans say, "Oh, Mega Katana, you're ungrateful. Without Robotech, you would have been a Macross fan." Dude, I already said that in the beginning of the video a while back. And also, dudes, what they're doing to like the Macross series, we don't have Macross 7, which is meh or below it meh. Macross Frontier, average. Delta, yuck. What about its awesome video games? We don't have HD ports of Do You Remember Love, let alone a movie release. We don't even have like Macross Ace Frontier HD ports because of this whole fiasco, let alone the whole soundtrack rights in just Japan. But that's had to do with the whole Robotech Harmony Gold situation. Yeah, and I just figured out why they don't do HD ports or remasters of Macross games, because of the whole fiasco we're having right now. It's a mess. This whole thing is a freaking mess. A headache. There's barely any new fans because of Robotech being like really dated and old. They cannot make a reboot because of the whole Studio Nue, Soji Katamori lawsuit that's still going on to this, that's still talked about, controversial to this day. It's like, it's crazy. It's insane. I know there's like people like Happy Console Gamer or Magus X1, but let me just tell you something here. I love to put them on my podcast. We'll talk about Robotech and Macross and whatnot, but let me just tell you that it isn't right for a company to bar products that will actually save the Robotech brand. I don't care. Robotech will be like Robotech 7, Robotech Frontier, Robotech VFX, Robotech Delta, Robotech Do You Remember Love, yada yada, so on and so forth. Robotech Zero, Robotech Plus. Right then and there, people. Am I right? But no, they do not want to credit the original people that actually created the Macross property. That's what it is. It's their pride, and it's their pride. They don't want to like admit they didn't create Robotech and give Studio Neway credit. And what are your thoughts about this whole deal or situation? You think this is like retarded and whatnot, as I am? Do you think the Robotech brand is dying because of the whole Macross situation and the whole lawsuit and this whole rights fiasco? Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Hit that big red subscribe button and hit that blue bell for notifications on the video. Don't forget to check out the podcast as well, because there's podcast episodes on YouTube, on Anchor, on Spotify. Don't forget to check out the blog as well, because I sometimes occasionally blog whatnot. And let me just tell you, I'm starting to get back into writing again, and maybe I'll probably do like a Robotech or Macross like blog or review or so, and if it's a good idea for the guys who are watching the video. And don't forget to subscribe. I already said that already. So that's all to say for now. Sayonara.